As reported, the Ukrainian Defense Forces have attacked the command post of the 8th Combined Arms Army of the Russian Federation for the second time in a week. The attack on the enemy post took place on July the 3rd. This was reported by the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Ukrainian defenders also hit the command post of the 20th Motorized Rifle Division of the Russian Armed Forces in the temporarily occupied territory of Donetsk Oblast. The enemy's losses are being clarified. Our constant high-precision strikes significantly reduce the enemy's ability to plan and conduct operations in the region. All efforts aimed at continuing the occupation of the sovereign territory of Ukraine will be met with precise retaliation and will cost the enemy dearly, the statement said. The General Staff noted that Ukrainian fighters will continue to destroy the Russian occupiers' control system. Ukraine will continue to fight until all Russian troops are withdrawn from the sovereign territory of our state and a just and lasting peace is restored, the General Staff emphasized. On the morning of July the 4th, units of the Unmanned Systems Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, in cooperation with other components of the Defense Forces, struck JSC, Federal Scientific and Production Center Research Institute of Applied Chemistry. The enterprise currently produces thermobaric warheads for Shahed-type UAVs and is an important link in the armed aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine. Recently, in the temporarily occupied Kharkiv of Donetsk region, powerful explosions thundered. According to preliminary data, an ammunition depot was damaged. In addition, on the evening of June the 30th, a series of explosions were also recorded in occupied Donetsk. Several military facilities of the Russian occupation forces were probably damaged. Ukraine targeted the Borysoglebsk airfield in Russia's Donetsk Oblast overnight on July the 5th, damaging a warehouse with guided bombs, aircraft and other military assets, Ukraine's General Staff reported. The airfield hosts Su-34, Su-35S and Su-30SM jets that Russia regularly uses in airstrikes against Ukraine, according to the military. The strike may have destroyed a training and combat aircraft, with further assessments underway. The NASA Fire Information for Resource Management System detected a fire near the Borysoglebsk military airfield shortly after the strike. Residents in the area reported 8 to 10 powerful explosions. According to Russian independent outlet Astra, explosions were also heard overnight in Cheboksary, the capital of the Chuvash Republic. Additionally, explosions were heard during the night in Engel's Saratov Oblast. The attacks come as Russia escalates aerial assaults on Ukraine, prompting Kiev to increase long-range drone strikes on Russian military targets. Ukrainian officials say these drone operations aim to undermine Russia's strike capabilities and bring the war closer to those enabling the Kremlin's campaign. The elimination of high-ranking Russian military leaders will prevent the Russian Federation from planning certain actions at the front. This was stated by Alexei Getman, a veteran of the Russian-Ukrainian War, a reserve major, on air on Radio NV. In the army, when a commander is killed, an acting one is immediately appointed. That is, it is not like they will be left completely without leadership, but a new person must take over the case. Figure it out. This complicates the work of the unit. All these soldiers who were destroyed testify to how successfully our GUR, SBU or SSO, who directly participated in the preparation, can work. We understand that they arrived when they needed to. It was not just luck. Intelligence worked, knew where and when they would gather, said Getman. At the same time, he added that such liquidations also cause fear in Putin himself. After all, he sees how the special services work. Mossad is resting. Putin must understand that according to the law, he is also our legitimate target, and I am sure that sooner or later he must also be destroyed. Earlier it became known that Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Navy Mikhail Gudkov was killed in the Kursk region. According to the Russian side, 10 war criminals were killed in the strike. Many of them were senior officers, the new brigade commander, his deputies, battalion commanders, and service chiefs. In addition, the day before, the Ukrainian Armed Forces struck the command post of the 8th Combined Arms Army of the Russian Armed Forces in the temporarily occupied territory of Donetsk Oblast. Such an attack significantly complicates the enemy's ability to plan and conduct operations in the directions of Pokrovsk and Toretsk. The Ukrainian Defense Forces will continue to consistently destroy the command and control system and communications of the armed forces of the aggressor country. Ukraine continues to fight until all Russian troops are withdrawn from the territory of our state and a fair and lasting peace is established, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine noted. Riding out in broad daylight outside the village of Yablunivka, 10 kilometers from the border with Russia, a 3-person T-64 or T-72 tank from the Ukrainian Army's 1st Tank Brigade engaged Russian troops at a point-blank range last weekend. It fired several rounds from its 125mm main gun and then pumped out a smoke screen and darted back to safety. Mission complete, Euromaidan press media outlet says. The exploding tank shells possibly marked the end of a grueling month-long battle for Sumy. Seizing the initiative after pushing Ukrainian troops out of western Russia's Kursk Oblast, a strong force of around 50,000 Russians marched into Sumy, aiming to create a buffer zone along the border and potentially even capture Sumy city, 35 kilometers from the border. It was a hard fight, but a smaller Ukrainian force drawn from parts of at least 10 brigades, each with a few thousand people, halted the Russian advance just south of Yablunivka. In certain areas, our units are successfully using active defense tactics and liberating Ukrainian land in Sumy Oblast. General Alexander Syrsky, the Ukrainian commander-in-chief, stated that 1st Tank Brigade tank was rolling into battle. We have reconstrained about 50,000 personnel of the Russian armed forces, including elite brigades of their airborne troops and marines, Syrsky added. The Russians employed their latest tactics, largely leaving behind their increasingly precious heavy armored vehicles. Having lost more than 20,000 armored vehicles and other heavy equipment in the first 41 months of their wider war on Ukraine, and struggling to build more than a few hundred new T-90M tanks every year, the Russians increasingly ride into battle on motorcycles or quad bikes or simply walk. Euromaidan press says, unsupported bike troops, lacking the protection afforded by overhead drones and the extra firepower provided by nearby artillery, would be easy prey for an aggressive tank crew. Despite the stereotypical view that tanks are obsolete and ineffective in modern warfare, there continue to be examples of their successful use. The pro-Ukraine conflict intelligence team noted that one tank Ukrainian counterattack outside Yablunivka is one of those examples. That T-64 or T-72 crew may have halted the last Russian advance in this phase of the fight for Sumy.